Good evening. We'll call this meeting to order at 4:30. Okay. Please rise.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
All present except Commissioner Paul is absent.
Thank you. Do we have any oral communications?
None.
All right. And let's move on to approval of the minutes. Do we have any comments? Motion to approve?
I second.
Open the voting. Okay, it's approved 6-0.
Thank you. And we'll move on to presentations. We have presentation from Threshold 5.
Thank you so much for having me, everybody. I'm Gordon Hoople. I'm one of the co-founders of Art Builds, who's responsible for the 5. This is my mic on. Can you hear me okay? Okay. I'll wait. How about now? Nope. All right.
Good speaker, though. I can hear you.
I can keep going, right?
Let me
Keep going, or you wanna wait?
grab somebody. I want to make sure we can record it. We're recording.
I have no good jokes, though. Sorry. No
Jokes?
good jokes.
Anybody got a joke? No. We're not recording.
How about now? There we go. All right, thank you. All right, so I'm Gordon Hoople. I'm one of the co-founders of Art Builds, which is the collective behind Threshold 5. Diane and Jeff are here with me. We're a group of about 30, based mostly in San Diego, with a couple of folks that live here in Escondido. We're actually having a Thanksgiving, Friendsgiving dinner right after this. So thank you for inviting us to do that. It's been very helpful. I'm here today because I'm excited to tell you a little about Threshold 5, and we want to think about whether this is going to be part of the permanent collection or the temporary collection. So this is the sculpture. None of the technologies can work today. That's okay. I bet this. All right. So this is the sculpture. I think you saw renderings of this a few months ago. So it's a series of 5 hexagonal gates. The largest one is about 8 feet tall. The smallest one is about 3 feet tall. And so when the Art Speaks initiative came about, Escondido Community Foundation invited us to submit an idea. We really thought about how beautiful Escondido was and how we wanted to create a sculpture that would complement the natural landscape, not compete with it, right? We wanted something that people would kind of stop and get out of their headspace and start to think about where they were in the world and where they were in the place. And so for us, this is a piece about taking a pause, about stepping back and about thinking about where you are. And so there's no one right way to look at this sculpture. Some people might look at it and see gates opening up. Some people might see gates closing down. Others from another angle might see a kind of primordial skeleton emerging from the ground, right? The point is there's no one way to experience this art. And for us, that's really what art is about, right? It's about art being in the eye of the beholder. It's a chance for folks to experience it themselves. So as I was talking to city staff about this piece and we were trying to think about where to put it, one of them said, well, which way do we look at it? And I just smiled. I was so happy. Like, great, you have no idea. That's perfect, right? That's what we're really going for, right? It's a chance for people to kind of stop and engage. And that's the kind of art that we like to make. We make art that people want to stop, they want to touch. It builds community, builds connection. So with city staff, they were totally amazing. We started looking for locations, and they scoured the city for us, and they found, I think the next slide has the location we've landed on, so in Kit Carson Park. So this is about a stone's throw from Queen Califia's Magic Circle. It's this beautiful vista where you can kind of see all of Kit Carson Park. And it's truly awesome. was a really, really great location. So I've got a rendering here on the next slide of the piece actually at the location. So here it is. I just cannot express how great this turned out. I was just so happy when I got there. I spent a couple hours there one Tuesday morning a few weeks ago. And I went on a Tuesday morning thinking it would be kind of empty and I'd be able to get some good pictures with nobody in it to put the renderings on. I was wrong. It was so busy. And it was just awesome to see how many people were there walking their dogs, walking with their friends. And so I managed to snap this one shot. I was like, great, okay, I've got my picture that I can work with. But we think it's just going to be a great location. I've put another rendering here of a potential different version you might imagine. We haven't settled on the final location at that site yet. I think there's lots of different good options that we could work with city staff to kind of figure out the best placement. And so the next slide there, so the question today is we need to decide about permanent or temporary. And the reason we need to do that is we're at a fork in the design road. So we can either do a temporary foundation or a permanent foundation for this piece. And they're both about the same cost. But if we go temporary and we want to switch to permanent later, that's $20,000. And we don't have that in the budget. Right, that's almost half of the whole budget for the piece. So we need to decide now which way we want to go. And so the question for permanent foundation is kind of, well, what does that look like for maintenance, longevity, that kind of stuff? So I've got here a reference photo of another art piece. This is Crete. That's in the Laumeier Sculpture Park in St. Louis. So this is made out of the same materials. So it's Corten steel with a concrete foundation. This piece is almost 50 years old. And there are dozens, if not hundreds, of pieces like this around the world. Corten steel just lasts forever. So it's a weathering steel. It reacts with the moisture in the environment to create this rusty patina. That's why we picked this material, because it looks kind of natural. It looks like it belongs in a park. And it also has this benefit that it lasts forever. It just is a very, very long-lasting material. It doesn't need to be painted. It doesn't need to be cleaned. You just leave it there. The one potential risk is, as with any public art, is graffiti or vandalism, right? So that could be a potential maintenance concern, but this should clean relatively easily, right? You can pressure wash it down. You're not worried about taking paint off or something like that. I suppose if the worst case scenario, you could get a grinder out and you could grind something off, and that patina would come back in a couple of months after you did that. So it's really well suited for kind of a long-term installation. So I think that should work pretty well. I think that's the main things I wanted to highlight. I'll just kind of end and leave lots of time for questions, saying, we started this off aiming for a temporary installation. That's what ArtSpeaks asked us for. And as we got down the road, we picked this material that we thought would look really good, and then we started looking at the site. We said, this might want to be a permanent piece. There's a lot of things about it we like. There's a lot of things about it that we're hearing positive feedback on. Let's explore what that would look like. And we just have gotten really excited about the idea that it might be here, and it could be here for a long, long time. And so with that, I'll end and answer any questions that I can for you all.
My mic isn't on? There it is. Okay. Now, the picture we're looking at here, is this the actual spot that it might be?
So this is the spot in Kit Carson Park that it could be. There are, where it goes within the 100-foot radius of that picture is undetermined. Right?
Okay.
So it could move a little bit closer to the bench. We could twist it 90 degrees, that kind of stuff.
And that bench is there right now?
That bench is there right now. I actually was going to ask you if we could move the bench, but that's a question for later.
Okay, I'll ask a couple quick questions. Now, I like the way that it kind of scopes out to that mountain there. That's awesome if it was in that area. And I realize every angle you look at, it's going to be a little different view. I like the material. It's kind of a no-brainer if it's permanent or non-permanent. I would like to, I know where the Queen is. Can you see it from the parking lot of?
Can you see this piece from the parking lot?
Would you be able to see it from the parking lot? Just the more visibility, the less graffiti, I would think. I mean, the more.
Yeah, that's it. I don't know. You can see the top of the hill. I don't know if the 8-foot gate will stick up high enough for you to be able to see it or not.
So it would just be a little peek of it.
You might be able to see. Yeah, that's a good question. I'm not totally sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I do like the idea that, I mean, if it's costs the same, pretty close, the permanency of
Yep.
it, it's awesome. You just can't, with all the different angles, you just can't quite figure out what's going on there. And I kind of like that.
Good.
That is art. That is it.
I have a positive remark. I love the way it frames in whatever you want it to frame in. No matter where you move, you're going to see framed in beauty. I also realize art, sometimes you want to ponder, and I know you mentioned the bench, but I was wondering, without a back on a bench, if there could be benches without a back around it so that people can sit and enjoy just the peacefulness that it gives and it offers. Is that Mule Mountain in Rancho Bernardo behind you?
I don't know. So this is south facing, so I'm not sure which that would be. Yeah. I mean, it was just, I got up there and I was just struck by the beauty. I sat on that bench for a long time. I would love to have benches around it to create that space if we could. That would be amazing. I'm not sure what the requirements are of that space and how much we're allowed to change and do, but that would be amazing.
I would recommend not having a back because it would be distracting, something very simple and smooth. Maybe material that complements that color,
Yeah.
but it's lovely.
And far enough away that it doesn't interrupt this
Yeah.
view,
Yeah.
because it would be horrible to just,
Yeah. Yep.
yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Getting it out of the
Right.
right. Yeah.
So I have a question. If you're going to go with the permanent foundation, is it still going to look this way? Or
Yeah.
we won't see concrete footing?
Yeah. So what we'll do
That's
is
so cool.
yeah, we can we'll drop the concrete like an inch below the soil level, and then you just push the soil back up over. I guess this could be another maintenance issue. If over many years, you could get erosion away, and you have to like put more soil back up to cover the foundation up. That I suppose could happen. But yeah, my goal would be that it looks just like this, that you're not seeing a bunch of concrete.
And it's the same steel that's going to be in that concrete footing, so
Yes,
we
so-
are still not going to get anything eating away at the material underground?
Exactly. Yeah. So
Okay.
the concrete will, the way the concrete foundation goes is it's basically like a V shape they're gonna pour, and so it'll be this like big pad that's underneath, and then you use these epoxy anchors to anchor the gates into it, and then all of that can be buried under stone, under kind of whatever makes sense at that site. Here, I think you just bury it under the dirt.
So, Robert, is Public Works looking at this also, just because of that whole thing about it could be a maintenance thing where we need to maintain the soil? Do we have to get their opinion on this?
So pending your direction today, because you're not deciding today whether or not you're going to include this in your permanent collection. What you're doing is you're going to provide me as your staff liaison direction to say, please explore this as a permanent option. Then my job will be to go back to touch base with Public Works, our Parks Division, as well as our environmental teams, because this is surrounded by an environmentally sensitive habitat, to see whether or not this would be able for us to include or incorporate into our permanent collection. I will have that for you. That report will likely be available for you by your next meeting, so January 13th, which is a fairly quick turnaround time, but I don't think there's a lot that we are going to have to be discussing as far as this is concerned. The Public Works Parks Division and Community Services have had regular conversations already early on in the discussion while Gordon was presenting this to us last year. And so I think this will be a fairly easy report for us to provide to you. And then in January, you will decide at that time whether or not you want to incorporate it as your part of your permanent collection.
Okay, so it sounds to me as if you're saying permanent collection, permanent foundation are the same question.
Yes.
Okay.
I have one other question. It looks like this is decomposed granite. I could be wrong, but decomposed granite does very well with foot traffic, rain, erosion. But sometimes you can do an additive to decomposed granite where it doesn't move as much, and I don't think then maintenance would be such a problem. Is that an option you've looked at?
I don't know if this is decomposed granite or just the natural soil at the environment. It looked to me like it was just there, and it was just like had been beaten down over the years, but I don't know. We can check with parks, and I think if it is, if we want to, we can do something like that fixative on the DG to really hold it in there. I don't think that will last as long as the sculpture. It might be something that needs to be some upkeep, but it should last quite a long time.
Thank you.
I have a question. What's the height of the smallest gate again?
3 feet.
3 feet.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess the reason I'm asking is just, I don't know why I thought it was like a bit taller. Yeah, I mean, I love the piece. I really love the piece. I love the simplicity of it, but how it can turn into something greater. And I love how you positioned it here. I am curious, in the pathway, do you have it, are you thinking of orienting it like in the middle of the pathway here?
So if you go back to the satellite view, it's a really big, the other direction. Yeah, it's a pretty big space there.
Yeah.
So where the red circle is, that's a pretty big space.
Yeah.
So you can really, there is no like one clear path through there. So you can kind of put it anywhere
Yeah.
in there.
Yeah.
And that to me is like a big question that I don't know what the best spot is. I don't know what's allowed in terms of what Parks is going to have opinions about. So I think that might be something we want to include as we study this over the next 2 months. Like, where specifically could it go, and what angle can we point it at to kind of frame the things that we want to frame?
And it brings up another question / comment. I believe like the San Diego Humane Society does like a doggy walk, like at Kit Carson. So I'd be curious about how this piece appears in like events such as that. You know, if it's not that walk, but other walks,
Yeah.
it'd be really awesome.
Yeah.
But yeah, just something to consider. But I love the piece.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it definitely won't be something you have to walk through, right? It cannot be like on the only narrow pathway and that forces everybody to go through, because that just won't work. Yeah, it needs to be something where you can get around the sides. Yep.
I really enjoy this piece. I feel like Kit Carson is becoming some place where you can find artwork on your
Yeah.
walk, right? Because we have the Queen
Yep.
once this sculpture is installed, and then I know by the softball fields there's the leaves along the sidewalk, right? But yeah, and I walk this trail every
Oh,
week,
great.
so yeah, I think there's plenty of room there. But I think I have the same question. I was there yesterday, and there was a marathon and a 5K going on, so I know it was really busy.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah.
I trust you all to make the best decision.
Yeah, I mean, this is very well thought out, I feel like, and very, like, the way you folks have presented it, and just all the thought that you've put into the installation and just the different angles. I agree. I mean, I think this will be a great addition to Kit Carson Park for sure. Yeah. Do we make a motion? Yes. All right. I motion that we explore the possibility of making this a permanent sculpture.
And
Go ahead and open the voting. Approved 6-0.
thank you so much. I so look forward to this sculpture. Okay, new business, the Escondido Community Foundation Library mural. This is another very exciting project.
Thank you.
So, my name's Lisa Ruger. This should work. Oh, okay. And we spoke earlier, so this is your mic on? I need to be closer. Oh, now it sounds on now. Okay.
I think that has control of the podium.
You have to. Okay. Okay. Okay, so I'm Lisa Reuter. We've talked before. I'm here to talk about one of the specific pieces of artwork, but I thought I'd bring you up to date first on the other pieces. When we came to you in, I believe it was July, we had 5 pieces that we were looking at. 2 of those are complete.
One is on the Jor Muffler building, and that was the one that was the highway signs. So that's actually facing the high school. So that one's done. And then there's one in the mall that's been completed. This will be the third piece that we're talking about. And now I'm here to talk about the one that will go on the library. And then the last piece, which is waiting for construction, is the one on the creek. So that one will still need public input, so we'll be back another time. Okay, so my name's Lisa Reuter, and I'm from the Escondido Community Foundation. This is Cece Lusky. She's part of the committee that's the Art and Beautification Committee, and the artist is sitting back here, and he's available if you have some of the questions about the art. Today, we are mostly requesting final approval for this art, and we're explaining the process that we use for gaining the tribal approval. As I understand it, you're considering some pieces that also have some Kumeyaay elements, so that's why we're explaining more deeply the process that we used. Okay. You see, you wanna?
It's already on
Okay. Okay, this is the timeline that we made it to when we discussed it last time. So the bottom, number 4, is the approval of the Public Art Commission after our board had approved it. Then you had tentatively approved the piece on the library pending input from the library patrons. So go ahead. This is the rest of the timeline that we've needed to complete. So the library patrons provided numerous points of input. Many of them were eventually incorporated into the final version. This input led us to more cohesive design that no longer contains the girl or the orange trees or the framing of City Hall. But at the same time, a city council member asked if the tribe had input on the design. There was a great deal of research that went into creating the design. We had not actually discussed it with the tribe. So we understood that we'd overlooked an important step and began the process of gaining approval from the Kumeyaay Nation. So I'm gonna let me go through the rest of this. First, I'm gonna remind you so Cece's gonna talk about the actual approval process with the tribe because she was responsible for that. I'm going to remind you where this artwork is, what it looks like, so if you want to go. This is the walls that it goes on. This is the artwork. This next one has more detail. So in the lower left-hand corner, if you go ahead and go to the next one, you'll notice that those wavy lines are actually words. So that's a Kumeyaay creation story that's included in that. And I'll let Cece take it from there.
Okay. Hi, my name is Cece Martinez-Lesky, and as she mentioned, I'm also part of the SPOT and on the Community Foundation Board. So as any committee, we try to work together and try to figure out all our problems. So when they came back in mid-August, the city was requesting more of a formal approval from our Native American tribes. We realized that's a little more complicated than you think, because in the process, we found out there is 12 to 13 different Kumeyaay bands in the area. Luckily, I'm born and raised here in Escondido, so I actually worked with the Stamp Squaw Band of Tribe 25 years ago. So I had contacts with Lorraine Orozco, and she is the Education Executive Director at Stamp Squaw. So I reached out to her, and specifically what we were looking for is not approval of the full mural, but specifically the Native American portion of it, because that's the only area that they would really have, an influence on that. So when I sent Lorraine Orozco the request and also the mural design, she right away recognized that there was some cosmology pictures and images on it that was from I want to make sure I get his name right, Mike Conley Misquish. So let me go ahead and just read this a little bit. But anyways, okay, so Lorraine recognized similarities in some of the symbols in the mural designs from Mike Conley Misquish. Images were from his book on Kumeyaay cosmology. So on September 3rd, Lorraine sent an email request to all 12 bands of the Kumeyaay Nation tribal delegates in the area, including Mike Conley Misquish. And as a tribal delegate, Lorraine also forwarded the information to our closest tribal neighbors, the Sampasqual leadership at the Sampasqual Tribal Culture, the leadership and the Sampasqual Tribal Culture Committee, which included Johnny Bear Contreras and Desiree Morales Whitman, which I grew up with and have known him, so we've worked together in the past. Right away, in September, Mike Conley Misquish, he responded back with some positive feedback. And he also was happy to connect and work with the artist, which was very important. So just a little bit of background, Mike is a Campo Bandit Kumeyaay tribal member, and he's a recognized Kumeyaay historian and author. Mike has the endorsement of all the Kumeyaay tribe's background and has written 2 books on the Kumeyaay culture. Also during this process, which was in mid-September, I spoke with Carol Rogers, who was already working on another project with Johnny Bear Contreras. So in the process, we were realizing, as anything, we were trying to solve a problem, so we were trying to figure out what was the best way to handle this. And so Johnny Bear, I also spoke to Johnny Bear myself directly, and he was aware that Lorraine had already spoke with the tribal council and had already spoken with the chairman. It was determined that since Sampasqual is our closest neighbor, that the formal letter would come directly from them. So on September 24th, we received the formal letter from the Sampasqual Tribal Chairman, Stephen W. Cope. And as the letter stated, the mural design is culturally appropriate, accurately representing the cultural heritage of the Kumeyaay Nation. But what we also wanted is that in that particular letter, it mentioned Mike Conley Misquish. So we also reached out to Mike and received on October 20th an email confirming that Mike Conley Misquish had corresponded with the artist, Tim, and was in agreement with the use of his Kumeyaay cosmology images and the Native American portion of the Escondido Library mural design. So in this whole process, this was a learning experience, we were trying to develop a relationship that we can use from this point on. As Lisa mentioned, we have another mural coming in the beginning of next year that also could have some Kumeyaay or Native American designs. So during that, I also wanted to make sure that we could have someone that we could work with early on, not after the fact. So in the future, the context for the future Kumeyaay projects will be Lorraine Orozco, the Education Executive Director, Johnny Bear Contreras, Cultural Committee Artist, Desiree Morales Whitman, Cultural Committee, and she works for the Environmental Department. What they mentioned to me is that they will be the main contacts, but depending on the subject matter, it will be determined which direction it will go in. If it happens to be environmental plants, then they would do more environmental or native plants or different things like that. So at least we have a contact, we established a process, and we feel that confident, at least for us, that we can use that process come January with the next mural. Do you have any questions?
Just, I'd like to just make a comment that thank you for all that work, because one of the things that we always are, that personally I'd like to see is that we're not, by accident culturally appropriating something that we, so thank you for doing all this work. It might have it seemed like a lot of stuff that you had to go through to make it happen, but thank you. This is very important.
It was my pleasure. Thank you.
Yeah. I also want to commend the work and collaboration on both sides, and I think it's very important to set this process, right? Because I know it was hard, but at least for future projects, you now know what to go through.
That's true.
I think, too, it's really wonderful how this imagery evolved. Congratulations to you, the artist. This is fabulous.
Oh, I'd like to say, I think it was sort of providence, the way that things worked together, with the way that you knew people who knew people, and it all came together.
So Escondido.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, it's very Escondido.
Yeah.
That's how we work, right?
All right, thank you.
I just have a comment. These contacts, will we have them for other works that we might have that might involve influence? I guess as a council, because I know you have your group, art.
In the process,
Yeah.
I let them know that we were establishing a new process,
Mhm.
and was it okay for us to share those information with you guys? Obviously, you guys will determine whatever your process is, but yes, they were fine, and they decided,
Super.
you know, go ahead and send it to 3 of them, because now they get so many different requests for so many different things, and then they will determine, depending on the subject matter, which direction they'll go in. But they are now familiar. We've gotten a letter from their tribal chairman, so I feel like we have the first steps established.
Great. Thank
And
you.
the Public Art Commission, do already have a relationship with Desiree and Johnny Bear. So Loreno, I have not met, but I'm sure we will.
Okay, so on our timeline, then that takes us through the tribal approval. Now, the next part was we took it to the library. The library board wanted to see this, and they have given their approval. And they were really excited about having the idea of having the tribe potentially come in and then bless the piece. So they really like that idea. Any more questions on the artwork? This is your chance to talk to the artist if you have any more.
This is going out for public comment again, or have you, you've already taken into account all of the public comment?
Yeah, there was, what, hundreds of comments. Yeah, those were all taken into account. They were taken into account about the same time we needed to get tribal input, so all those were worked together. So we didn't revise it and then revise it again.
So do we need to make a motion, Robert? When,
The time, and maybe you said this and I missed it, what is the timeline on this now?
And I'll defer to Robert on this one.
Before Robert gets up, can we have an interpretation? I would love to know what everything means. Thank you.
As far as the timeframe for getting this up, as I mentioned to the Library Board of Trustees on Thursday when they had their meeting and they gave the same presentation, is that we have a very large infrastructure project that will be starting at the library in May. We will have to vacate the library in total, probably in April approximately. So we are going to be relocating library services for approximately 10 to 12 month period of time. In that period of time, it's going to depend on what construction looks like. Because we are replacing the roof, we're replacing the HVAC system, and we're doing a variety of different electrical and plumbing inside the building. So it's a full infrastructure project. As a result, I don't know what disruption to potentially that wall might look like for this to go up. So what we don't want to have happen is we don't want to install the artwork on the building and then have the construction come in, put in the new roof, and has now damaged the artwork. And then the artist would have to come back and redo that. So we will be working with the construction company, the construction management, as well as the project manager to determine what is the best timeline for us to be able to do that. It is entirely possible that they won't be dealing with that section of the roof, or they may be wanting to do that roof first. And so once that roof is completed, then the artist can come in and actually complete the mural, and then it would be completed for the major grand reopening that we would be having again in 2026. So the timeline is very flexible at this point in time.
You. We have any more questions?
Well, I'm just fascinated by this, and it's beautiful, it flows, and I know that there's many different legends within this, and that's why I wanted to
Yeah,
ask about an interpretation.
we can take a minute for the artist to come up and talk about it.
I have one quick question before that. Will there be lights on this piece, like during the nighttime? I know that's kind of a weird question, but
The library asked the same question, so.
yeah.
I'm just going to stay here. How about that? So the Library Board of Trustees asked the same exact question. And again, I think it's going to be heavily dependent on what everything looks like once we get the mural up. When Tim comes up to talk, what he can reference is part of the reason why he picked this side of the library is that the light and the shadow that worked really well with the art piece, as well as because that's a relatively well-lit corner, for traffic, there may not necessarily be a need to light the artwork, but we want to get the artwork installed. We want to take a look to see what it looks like in the moment before we make any decisions about lighting.
Great. Yeah, I think definitely depending on how once the piece is up, I'd be really curious to see how it looks like in the nighttime, because I think it's so mystical. I love it. I love the dark themes. I love the colorful themes. It's a great balance, and I think it'll be really cool to see at different times of the day.
So I think you guys get this, but in these references, I put the creation story and the information about the cosmology, so they're links. And I also put a little bit of the work that Tim had put. So this was the Kumeyaay creation.
I don't think that's in our packet. Can you send it?
It is
out?
not in your packet, but I will send it to
Thank you.
everyone.
Thank you.
Okay. So I'm just waiting for a vote before I sit.
I thought Tim was going to come and talk to us for a minute, and then we won't let him talk for an hour, but.
Hello all, my name is Tim, I'm the artist. In terms of lighting, it's whenever I finish a mural, I use a high gloss finish, which if it's hit directly by the sun gives you a glare. However, the way this building is constructed, it goes in the shade after about 10 a.m. So you have a full day of daylight without the shine, which is fantastic for my purposes. Also, it's facing an intersection, which is very well lit at night. And I believe the building itself has 2 lights attached to it, illuminating the wall right now. So you will have pretty good visibility at night, as is up to about those gray squares. Those are the windows. So at least half of it will be very well illuminated without any additional lights. When it comes to the meaning, since this is the library, it's all about narrative and storytelling. The mural starts at the bottom left with a campfire scene where a person is conveying a story to his friends, and the story is spelled out in lines of text, and that story is about 8 feet tall. So as you stand in front of it, you can read it and flow with it and see it very well. However, everything above it on the left is the depiction of the story. So you can read it or you can see it. So they're both the same story, both for narrative and images. Do you want to hear the actual story real quick? So, in the beginning, the whole world was underwater, and you had 2 brothers. And one of them wanted to see what is above the water. So he climbed up a mountain, and he saw that from the top of the mountain, above the water, insects and ants were taking little bits of rock and piling them on. And that's how the firmament was formed. The older brother asked, hey, should I come up? Younger brother said, yeah, come up. But as the older brother was coming up, he kept his eyes open, which made him go blind. And he could not navigate this new above water world. So he decided to remain underwater, where he would stumble and fall because of his blindness. And that's what causes earthquakes. The younger brother started growing his tribe, his people, and the people multiplied and multiplied until the natural resources had become very scarce. So there was a tribal council, and they decided to send their medicine men to speak to their god in regards to, okay, how do we fix this problem of not having enough food? The god, who was a big white wizard with many legs, came down, and the tribe had built a big round house for him. But as he went in, the walls of the house started falling down, a fire broke out, and the god was burned. And the tribe decided that maybe if they eat of the god's flesh, they would gain some of his wisdom. And they did that, but that resulted in everyone speaking different languages. And so all of those people speaking the different languages started repopulating the earth. And that's the story. I also used Professor Misquich constellations, which in my conversation with him, turns out there's no set Kumeyaay astrology. These are his interpretations from decades of research, which is what we see in the night sky. And then we have Escondido, spelled out in big Western letters, on Mexican-style traditional floral pattern.
That was wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I have one thing too. This is just really hot off the press. That was just written actually by my colleague, Miss Squish and Lorraine, but it's just going to be put out there. This is actually written by the Kumeyaay. It's going to be part of the San Diego Department of Education for 3rd and 4th graders. And in the first 2 pages, it talks about the creation story and actually has a little depiction. So when I was talking to Lorraine when we were going to present this, she goes, you know what? They're literally just giving it out just this next week, but she let me have a copy of it. So it's something that's going to be very relatable. And yeah, we'll make sure. Anyways, I just wanted to add that.
Any other questions?
No, thank you. That was wonderful.
Thank you all.
This is going to be a jewel.
Yes, it is. I'd like to make a motion to accept this proposition, this artwork.
I'll second.
There we go. Approved 6-0.
Thank you so much for all your work on this.
Carol, can I ask you a question? If we do a ribbon cutting, I think it would be wonderful if the artist is there to do a short synopsis of the story. He's willing to do that.
Absolutely, absolutely. But this is a long ways off. I think we invite the people from San Pasqual Band of Mission Indians, the artists. Yes, absolutely. Okay, so Escondido Expressions Traffic Signal Box Program Phase 3.
Good evening, commissioners. That's what it was, yeah, okay. I'm Sandra Aguilar, Management Analyst for Community Services Department, and it is my absolute pleasure to give you an update on the Escondido Expressions Program and our first call for artists. As a reminder, the Escondido Expressions Program is designed to enhance and bring art to Escondido's neighborhoods and commercial areas by transforming traffic signal boxes into works of art. The goal is to highlight local artists, deter graffiti, expand the city's public art by creating scenes that reflect the vibrancy and diversity of the local neighborhoods. On July 8th, the full commission approved 12 locations and accompanying themes to be released in a call for artists. Each artist chosen will receive a $500 artist stipend, with one box requiring additional preparation, therefore receiving an additional $200. So this is what we're now calling Phase 3.1, the timeline. So on Monday, September 24th, the call for artists was released for all 15 traffic signal boxes and their locations. The distribution channels included the city's website, sending it previously selected artists directly, the Public Art Commission's personal and professional contacts, the Escondido Union High School District, and an announcement in the city's weekly activity report. On Friday, October 4th, there was a question deadline, but we received no questions. Then Friday, 18th, all artist submissions were due. We received a total of 14 submissions from 10 artists at 6 locations. On Thursday, October 24th, the Escondido Expression Subcommittee met in order to select the top 3 submissions for each location that received multiple submissions. And then we had our public input survey period from Monday, October 28th through Sunday, November 10th. On Wednesday, November 13th, the Escondido Expression Subcommittee met once more to review the public input and the final recommendation. So now we're going to review the public input that we received. So on October 28th, the online public input survey was released for a total of 14 days. The public was able to choose from the top 3 submissions at each location, as well as none of these if they didn't like any of the submissions. The online survey resulted in 226 responses with 45 comments submitted. Comments were overwhelmingly positive, and I selected 3 to share with you today that summarize the types of comments that we received. They generally fell into 3 categories. The first was excitement over the artwork. Comments stated how beautiful the submissions were and the talent of the artist, and it just goes to show the quality of artists that we have in Escondido and our surrounding areas. The second category was the interest in the Escondido Expressions program themselves. They stated they loved how much this program was adding beauty and color to our city. The last category was thanking the commission for considering public feedback and giving them a vote on the type of art they'd like to see. So now on to the submissions. At the first traffic signal box, the theme chosen is Cruising Grand, an Escondido tradition. This location is highly visible near our iconic Escondido Arch, and for this location, we received 2 submissions. The preferred submission from the public and the Escondido Expression Subcommittee was Cruisin' in the Clouds by artist Lydia Martin. The artist is a North County native who creates signs, murals, props, and 3D pieces. She currently curates art shows and is an acting manager at Raven's Nest Gallery on Grand. In Lydia's statement about the inspiration for the piece, she stated, "The cars may be the main attraction, but it's more than that. It's the community, the weather, and the bustling downtown district." For the second location, the theme is animals, since we have such a diverse wildlife here in Escondido, as well as being the home for the safari park. The traffic signal box is located on the way to the safari park, and you're seeing the top 3 selections. The preferred submission from the public and the Escondido Expression Subcommittee was Nature's Tapestry by artists Kieran Edwards and Kiana Harold. The artists are recent graduates from John Paul the Great Catholic University here in Escondido, and in their application, they expressed their excitement to give back to the community to help them grow as artists. They stated the inspiration for this piece was the wildlife that surrounds Escondido area. We wanted to view nature and show people the beauty of the area. It's also a great way to work with a friend on an art piece. For our third location, the chosen theme is community events at Grape Day Park. As a reminder, on the online survey, the public had the option to choose none of these and recommend that we seek other submissions. And this option was available everywhere. For this box, we only received 1. And this traffic signal box is located in the Midway Crossing on Broadway from Grape Day Park to the San Diego Children's Discovery Museum. The preferred submission from the public and the Escondido Expression Subcommittee was Grape Day Smash. The artist was born and raised in Escondido. In his application, Steven said when he grew up at the park, he watched his father play softball there and swam in the pool. He wanted to share that with his kids and show them the history of the park. He is an artist who loves to paint, draw, and tattoo. His interest in applying for the Escondido program is to be able to show his artwork in the community and the city he was raised in. Our fourth traffic signal box had a theme of dairy and orange groves as a tribute to Escondido's rich agricultural history and is located near the location where Hollandia Dairy was founded. We received 2 submissions for this location. The preferred submission from the public and the Escondido Expression Subcommittee was Farmers Market by Zane. Zane is a well-known local artist who has painted many of the beautiful murals in the city and has participated in the Escondido Expressions program prior. The artist was inspired by the locally grown fruits and vegetables. He stated, "I love to contribute to the betterment, look, and style of Escondido." For the 5th traffic signal box, the theme is lemon and orange packing. Escondido was once home to the citrus packing house for Sunkist, and this location is near the historic site. For this location, we received 1 submission. The preferred submission of the public and the Escondido Expressions Subcommittee was Orange Squeeze by Sofia Pavas. Sofia is an artist primarily working in animation and is based in Vista. She loves Escondido's commitment to making the city a more beautiful place. She wanted to give a fresh twist on the theme and stated, "I wanted something bright and fresh to represent Escondido's history with orange and lemon packing. A fresh picture of juice seemed most fitting." And for our last traffic signal box, the theme was an interactive box that appeals to children. This box is located near Juniper Elementary and would be enjoyed by our young Escondido residents on their way to school. You are seeing the top 3 selections for this location. The preferred submission from the public and the Escondido Expression Subcommittee was What a Wonderful World by Ryan Keith Ross. Ryan is our youngest artist in this round at the age of 15 and a half, according to his application. The artist made sure to include a platypus in his artwork because the safari park is the only zoo outside of Australia that houses them, and that is uniquely Escondido. The piece is interactive and has 14 butterflies for kids to count, and the butterfly wings are set to a height to make it a photo opportunity for children to pose in front of. In his artist statement, he says, "I want to challenge myself by creating public art. It's also important to start creating an art portfolio that I can use for college applications." This was our first call for artists, so there were quite a few lessons along the way. The first learning point we had was we need to release smaller calls for artists. We were a bit ambitious in releasing all of them at once. It caused the document to be quite large. And most of the submissions we received were for the first few in the call for artists packet. Most artists didn't read all the themes in that case. Therefore, moving forward, we'll be releasing the remaining boxes in 2 parts. The second learning point was to make the artist's requirement more general. It was difficult to find an artist from a specific tribe for one of the boxes, despite the commissioners doing outreach and staff sending it to contacts. The subcommittee will be considering expanding the artist requirement to an artist from any of the local tribes. In the future, we'll also make sure when placing artist requirements that they are general enough for more artists to apply. Our third learning point was the current themes infuse a high level of Escondido history, but it may not appeal to all artists. The subcommittee will be considering leaving some boxes without a theme in order to give potential artists more creative freedom and allow them to express what they see in their community and in Escondido. And our last point was that we discussed the contract clause allowing for 20% variation from the design and how difficult that actually is to track what 20% is. After careful consideration, we decided to reinstate a revised version. The artists will not be able to change the approved design, but they can make any necessary changes based on the surface, scaling issues, or color adjustments as needed. So next, we have our proposed timeline for the next 2 calls for artists. So the next call for artists would be released with 5 boxes. That would be in January. At the beginning of February, the subcommittee would meet to review all and select the top 3 submissions for each location. We would then receive our public input, just like we did in this last round. The subcommittee would meet again to make the final recommendation, and you would see the final recommendation presented to you in the March 10th meeting. At the same time, in March, we will be releasing the 3rd call for artists with 4 boxes. The subcommittee would meet at the end of March to review those submissions. We would have our public input survey time, and then the subcommittee would meet again to select the final recommendation. That would then be presented to the Public Art Commission on May 12th. The goal is to have all the boxes done for phase 3 by the end of June 2025. With that said, the staff recommendation is to approve the artist submissions for the 6 traffic signal boxes as recommended by the Escondido Expressions Subcommittee and supported by public input. That concludes this portion of my presentation, and I'm here to answer any questions you might have.
Any questions? Nope.
That was a quick turnaround on the feedback to the meeting.
It was a really, I like the diversity of this artwork. You guys did a great job. So I motion that we accept this as recommended by staff.
I'll second that motion.
We're voting. I love some of these artists. Sophia Papas was one of our very first artists in Esco Art. She does amazing work. She's a wonderful person. I'm glad to see her back. I'm glad to see Lydia Martin back. This is good. This is really great. Thank you.
Approved 6-0.
Next up is Art, Culture, and Creativity Month.
What was the final? I'm assuming 6.
Yours came through. Yeah. Yeah, here's a show.
Ready? Yeah. Okay. All right. Here we go. First off, I would like to congratulate Sandra. This was her first presentation in front of the commission. I think she did an amazing job. So she was very nervous, but she did phenomenally. So she has been the driving force behind the Escondido Expressions as the leading staff member. So thanks to her. A lot of this has been accomplished in the very short period of time for public input.
It didn't show. You're a natural.
Okay. The next topic we're going to be talking about is the Art, Culture, and Creativity Month. As one of your annual work plan items for art education, this was something that came up from the commission, and we are looking at implementing for April of 2025. We're going to be talking about actually a grant-funded program that we are going to be operating with your approval. So before we kind of go into what that's going to look like, I'd like to give you a little bit of information about Art, Culture, and Creativity Month. It is a statewide celebration that takes place every April. The program was recognized in 2019 by the state legislature, the efforts which were led by California for the Arts. The purpose of this was to recognize the value of arts, culture, by raising awareness of their impact in local communities. The idea was to provide free events, resources, and advocacy opportunities for the public. So what we're going to be talking about today, really based on staffing capacity, staff, Sandra and myself are your primary liaisons for the Public Art Commission. We have a limited amount of time and capacity available to be able to support a variety of different things. And as a result, we felt it was really important for us to do something to maintain your work plan for the Arts, Culture, and Creativity Month. And as a result, we have chosen to move forward with a grant-funded program. So the grant program objective is to basically support art programs and raising public awareness for the Art, Culture, and Creativity Month in April of 2025. The idea is that individuals or organizations can apply for funding anywhere in the neighborhood of $1,000 to $7,000 to be able to put on this type of programming. The different type of opportunities that we're looking at are workshops, classes, kind of demonstrations, public performances, exhibitions, festivals or events, and even lectures or discussions that are that facilitate learning. The grant program has identified 5 different grant priorities, and that are community engagement, public awareness campaigns, educational programs, cultural diversity, and innovative partnerships. So with that, we also have funding guidelines that we are going to be looking at. There is a total funding that you have allocated for $50,000. As I mentioned previously, your individual funding request will be anywhere from $1,000 to $7,000. A match is not required. That is the one thing that we identified that was not necessary. It's encouraged, but it's not necessary. We also are allowing up to 90% of direct costs and 10% of indirect costs to be able to go to whatever program or activity event that the individuals applying for would be doing. Budget, of course, is required. We do want to identify where all of our money is going and make sure it's being spent properly. We also want to talk about sustainability. When I talk about sustainability, I mean how can the program beyond the grant that's being funded continue in successive years? Or not even in successive years, how can it continue maybe throughout the course of the year? They've established a really great, amazing program for the month of April, but can they continue that through May, June, July, and so on? Or are they looking at, this is just an annual event that they want to do, again, every April as it comes up? So the way the payments would work for this particular program, we would initially issue 70% of that funding up front. And that will allow those groups, individuals, to be able to kind of get that started, right? They have a lot of startup costs that may be associated with this. And then upon final completion of the final report, that's when they would receive the additional 30%. So the timeline right now that we are looking at is the December 2nd of this year. We will be issuing the applications that will be available. The application and the information packet are in your packets that you've been able to, we were given for this meeting today. We do have a question deadline, so if anybody has questions about the specific grant, they would need to submit those by December 13th. We will be responding to all of those questions by December 18th. The application deadline itself, so we're looking at a little over a month, and that would be on January 3rd, 2025 by 5 p.m. And that's Pacific Standard Time, that's what PST is. The panel review, and when I say panel review, that means a subcommittee. So a little bit later on, you are going to be establishing a subcommittee again. And from there, that's when the subcommittee will be reviewing that information and making recommendations to the final commission. And so again, the final funding decisions for the Public Art Commission will be made on January 13th at your regularly scheduled meeting. And then funding notifications, so those will go out to the organizations, companies, individuals. We'll be notifying them by January 24th, 2025. So who is eligible? It's a great question. The lead applicant must be Escondido based. So one of the things that we had a conversation about internally, and I think this is important to note, is that we initially started out with you had to be a 501c3. But then we started having that conversation, well, what if a company wanted to run a class, right? And I think that would be great. And that would be an excellent opportunity, a free class for someone to be able to come in to take. What if an individual wanted to do a lecture at an art gallery about their opening? And so I think that would also be important as well. So that led us to the fact that we wanted to have a very open process. We're not really condensing it down to something that is very specific to certain groups or individuals. The only request in this regard is that they have to be Escondido-based, which means they have to reside within the city of Escondido. The projects also need to take place during April 2025. I think that's a given, but it does have to be stated because you never know. The project or activity, event, whatever they're doing, does need to take place April of 2025. Also, activities must take place within the city of Escondido, and I'm very thankful for Sandra taking a look at those requirements, because last week we were talking, and she's like, hey, don't you think they should be doing it in Escondido? Because originally there was no eligibility requirement for that. And I thought, that's a really great idea. We should probably include that in there because this is the Escondido Public Art Commission. Grant proposals must also align with one or more of those grant priorities that I outlined earlier in this presentation. And then grant proposals must include specific measurement outcomes. So we want to know that there is a benefit to what they're doing based on the number of people that they have had at their event or their activity, the reach that that activity has had, whether they have a unique partnership that they're able to form, and what does that look like. So they need to provide us with some very specific outcome measurements, and that is something that the subcommittee is going to be taking a look at ultimately. So the process, what the application review process is, the submittals must include the application. Again, the application was included in your packet this evening. As a part of that, there is organizational information that we do want to know. And then also they have to construct a project narrative. So a variety of different information that we are requesting about the project specifically. Of course, there is a budget as well that they have to provide us. And then any type of letters of support would be helpful. Now, this is not required with the exception of the innovative collaborations, a letter of support from the collaborative organization they'll be working with. And then what will happen is the Arts, Culture, and Creativity Month subcommittee will review all of the applications that we have received, and they will be making the final recommendations to the Public Art Commission, specifically for what funding they would like to see go forward. And then you, as the Public Art Commission, will be making those final determinations at your next meeting, which is the January 13th. So, our recommendation is that the Public Art Commission approve the Arts, Culture, and Creativity Month grant opportunity, as well as appoint a minimum of 2 and a maximum of 3 commissioners to serve on the subcommittee that will be responsible for reviewing, receiving, and making final recommendations of grant recipients to the Public Art Commission. And that concludes my presentation. I'm happy to take any questions.
So one other requirement of whatever they do, they have to list it on Visit Escondido. I know that seems small, but it's really important. We have to drive that home with everybody that's doing anything. To give the commissioners kind of an idea of the conversation that's been going on around this, we have the group MAGIC, Museum and Arts Growing Escondido Culture, and I've been talking to that group about it. And Donna Cosentino from the Photographer's Eye has created this week-long event that will include artist lectures, teaching. She wants to do some projection of photography throughout the city. And it's some other people have come up with some ideas, but they aren't fully cooked. I'm excited for this to happen. I'm excited for new partnerships. So when I pitched this idea, this is good. This is really well written, and I love that I saw in here that we were looking for to drive economic development and partnerships. This is all really good, and I'm hoping that by opening it up to individuals, teachers, schools, anyone that wants to come forward, that we'll see some really great things happening.
Yeah, I was going to ask if it was going to be publicized on a public calendar, like a local calendar and stuff. So definitely that. And I do like the fact that it isn't just, 501c3, because I think there's so many small business owners and obviously academic institutions that really could utilize this to increase awareness of what, the service, the art, the products that they're providing to the community that I think people will really resonate with. Additionally, I was wondering if there's any requirement as far as like if people attending these events or experiencing these experiences, if there's any like, if through this grant program, does that mean that the event or the program is free to attendees?
So that is one of the requirements, is that the event has to be free to individuals attending.
Great.
So, but then as far as the, what they're experiencing, kind of like some stories, some narrative around when we talk about those outcome measurements, that would be the responsibility of the grant recipient to tell those stories and to include those in the final report. So when we receive those, and I believe the final report is actually due by June 30th. Sorry, final report would be due by May, and then the final payment would be due by June 30th. That would allow us then in July, your July meeting, to be able to come back with you and share those impacts that this program has actually had.
Awesome.
So having a partnership with something within the city, schools were mentioned earlier, but you could do a partnership with like Children's Discovery Museum.
Absolutely, Commissioner.
I think this is exciting.
Any more questions? Motion to approve?
I second.
One did it first. Motion to approve this.
Well, then I'll second.
Yeah, I guess mine was a question.
Open the voting. Okay.
I may have just voted twice.
No, yeah. Approved 6-0.
And then the only other thing, Commissioners, that I will need is the selection of the subcommittee members. So
I want to be on that subcommittee. You know how I am.
Well, I would like to be too.
wonderful.
I would too if somebody else wants to join it, but is that going to be a conflict with
Nope.
SBA expressions?
Mm-mm.
Does anybody that hasn't had an opportunity to be on a subcommittee like to be on this? Because I will give it.
Yeah, I'm already on one that's it's gonna get started soon. And then also like there's only a few of us on the maintenance like group. It's not really a subcommittee, it's like a group.
It's a working group.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm fine. I'm fine sitting this out.
No, I have to ask.
So Commissioner Ryan, does that mean you want to serve on this one then as well?
I would like to, but I need to ask some questions.
Okay.
How much time is involved in this?
My anticipation is one meeting.
Oh, yes.
So literally one meeting, because the time frame for this is going to be very quick. Applications will be available December 2nd. The application period will close January 3rd. You will meet the very next week. You will review all the applications. You'll make recommendations to the Public Art Commission, and that will literally be it.
I would like to be on it.
Perfect.
So we have to motion?
We did already.
I have it listed as the three of you.
Okay.
Since there's nobody else that wants.
Okay, perfect.
I have one more comment. I'm going to have to leave. If you could tell me, just relay any of the little things that are important. And
Absolutely.
Thank you. Sorry.
You'll get the minutes.
Tricia, do you have?
I'll provide a more detailed version than what the minutes are. Minutes are usually pretty.
Okay.
Tricia, do you have time to make that request before you leave that you asked?
My request was about the maintenance, but I think we're going to cover that later, right?
So as far as the maintenance is concerned, we are still working with Francisco in our Real Properties Division to identify all of the pieces.
Mhm.
And so we'll be coming back in one of the later meetings, probably in early 2025, to have a bigger conversation about the assignments for the identifying which ones that the commissioners are going to be assigned to. Is that what your ask was?
Yes, it is.
Okay,
Thank you.
sure. Okay, next. Are you? Thank you. All right, so subcommittee updates. I know that you just had a conversation about subcommittees. I just want to review these with you one more time because we do have another subcommittee that is likely going to need to be appointed here this evening. So as a quick overview, just as a kind of a general reminder, subcommittees are formed around a particular task or area in order to make recommendations to the full commission. Subcommittees will consist of 2 to 3 commissioners, and that is based on the fact that you are a 7-commissioner board. And then members of the public do not sit on subcommittees, but they may attend any one of our publicly noticed meetings. And of course, subcommittees and subcommittee members are bound by the Brown Act. So current subcommittees are Escondido Expression subcommittees, and that is Commissioners Martinez, Paul, and Ryan. Our Escondido Creek Trail project is Commissioners Rogers, Spann, and Vargas. And then the Grand Avenue project is Commissioners Kelleher, Rogers, and Spann. And then the annual work plan subcommittee right now, and that was for 24-25, is Commissioners Rogers and Spann. Now, the proposed subcommittees that we are meeting is the mural subcommittee, and that was to align with the 24-25 annual work plan that was put into effect in May of 2024. This would cover the Escondido Union High School District mural program as well. So this is one of those items that they would be, that the subcommittee would be discussing. The Arts, Culture, and Creativity Month, that was a previous agenda item. We've already established this is Commissioners Rogers, Spann, and Ryan for that one. And then the annual work plan subcommittee for 25-26 will be coming up, but that one we're going to discuss in January, your January meeting, so January 2025. And then again, subcommittees should be updated annually in May following the adoption of your annual work plan. So this is kind of setting us up for the 25-26 annual work plan. So I want to get us on a regular schedule, but in order for us to do that, we need to just identify where we're at right now and what do we need to add, essentially. So that is a very quick presentation I have, and it's recommended that the Public Art Commission appoint 2 to 3 commissioners for any of the remaining subcommittees, which is really just the murals subcommittee at this point in time.
I'd
You
like
have 2 commissioners that are absent. I'm not sure you can appoint them if they're not here, but you might be able to.
I just was going to bring that up because I'm sure Commissioner Paul would probably like an opportunity to look over some of them. Is there any way we can postpone this or?
You can postpone it because the Escondido mural program is that's not going to probably come before the commission until the March meeting. So if you want to postpone this until January, you have the option to be able to do that.
And both of us are on that mural committee. I'm assuming we're still commissioners on the mural committee. Or is that?
So what I would say is that we're starting with a clean slate at this point. And so this one is more specific to the current work plan. So you are welcome to postpone it. You are welcome to, add commissioners to it if you so choose. I don't know how you want to handle it.
I was, but then it was that one gap that happened where I think the city wasn't sure whether or not we were going to. Yeah, definitely.
Can we make note that Commissioner Vargas wants to be on that commission?
Absolutely.
And then have further discussion when all of the commissioners are here in January?
I'm happy to do that.
Okay.
Absolutely.
I would love to be considered too.
Oh.
As well.
Okay, well, it sounds like that committee's full.
So it sounds like we'll need to wait until we have the full commissioners present to have a more robust dialogue about placing individuals on that subcommittee.
Why?
Because if you have more than just the four, and I don't know, unless you as a whole are willing to say Commissioner Vargas, Commissioner Martinez, and Commissioner Kelleher those are the ones that are going to be on the committee, or do you want to wait until Commissioner Span and Commissioner Paul are currently present?
So here's my feeling. Commissioner Span is on a lot of committees. I can't believe she would be interested in it. The Escondido Expressions Subcommittee is one of our most active committees. I think that I would say that I would accept this as our subcommittee. I think this is a great thing.
Okay.
Do we vote? What happens?
You have to sorry, you're just gonna have to nominate, so you can do it either way. If you want to nominate and say, I'm nominating whoever, and then we can vote on it, or if you table it, I would say like, oh, nominate it, like.
If you're interested now, and it sounds like Commissioner Rogers is interested in taking care of this now, I would say start with the nomination and then do a vote.
Okay. I nominate Commissioner Kelleher, Commissioner Martinez, and Commissioner Vargas for the mural subcommittee.
I'm so sorry, can you just repeat the three again?
Commissioner Kelleher, Commissioner Martinez, and Commissioner Vargas. Second? Somebody second.
I can second that.
Okay, I'll go ahead and open the voting. Okay, so you're done, right? Okay, so we're going to go ahead and it's approved 4-0 and Ryan is abstaining.
Okay? Thank you.
We're moving on to
Okay. So the next series of reports are specifically for you. Just wanted to kind of highlight a couple of things with regard to the Queen Califia's Magical Circle. We had on average 102 visitors a day based on the visitor log. So the information that you receive, we always give out the data reports that you receive in your packet. So went through and kind of looked at those. And then an average of 43 visitors per day when we're using the geolocation data. And if you recall, the geolocation data is the information that's used via the cell phones. It's when you say, yes, I'm willing to share my information on the cell phone, and then they can kind of track your geolocation of where you're specifically at. I would venture to guess that not everybody shares that geolocation information. Not everybody has a cell phone on them when they're visiting. So more than likely, we're much closer to that 102 visitors per day on average with regard to visiting Queen Califia, which is amazing, by the way. So we did have also 2 new docents that have started within the last couple of months, which is wonderful. And we are continuing to work on building our docent volunteer network so that hopefully we'll have some additional volunteer docents that will allow us to be able to open an additional Saturday per month, which would be really nice as well. So that's the goal that we're working toward. The online reservation system did go live within the last month and a half, I think, or so, and we have already had 3 private tours booked through the online reservation system, which is great. That also means when they do that and they book online that they do have to pay, and so that means we have gotten $150 for our maintenance of the Queen, so very exciting for that. We are also in the process of currently updating the website, and so my team had a conversation, we've gotten together, and we are really reworking what that website looks like. That is going to fall a little bit more in line with what you would see with the Nikki Foundation, so we are working towards that. And then finally, we are also investigating a different docent scheduling system that was also be used as a communication tool. I know that was a comment in the last meeting, and so we are currently in the process of doing that. One of the things that we currently have within our part-time staff, we do use a scheduling system as well, and due to the small number of docent volunteers that we have with the Queen, we would likely not have to pay, and we just basically get the free version. So that's what we're looking into right now, which would be really nice. Now, if for some reason that because of the number of volunteers we have, as our program continues to grow, that's something that we could just simply add on for a small additional fee that would be covered by the operations of our department. So I wouldn't worry too much about that, but hopefully.
Well, and on our big sales of private tours too.
It could be that too. So, so that's what we're working toward, and then hopefully by the January meeting we can share that we have invested in this particular tool and we'll be going live with it, hopefully the first part of the 2025. Just a quick update as far as the staff liaison report is concerned. The Grand Avenue project and the Escondido Creek Trail project are very large projects that we are obviously working toward. There was a request made by the city manager's office to reverse the implementation of those two projects, being that the Grand Avenue is going to be completed much sooner than the Escondido Creek Trail project. So what we are looking at right now is issuing an RFQ, which is a request for qualifications, in January for the Grand Avenue project. The Grand Avenue team, or Grand Avenue subcommittee, will be meeting in early December to have a conversation about the RFQ, what that looks like going forward. So in general, just to give you kind of some basic guidelines of, or not guidelines, just a basic timeline of what the Grand Avenue project is going to look like, is that we'll be doing a 4 to 6 week, we haven't nailed down specifically time frame yet, 4 to 6 week RFQ process that will start in January. After that period of time, the subcommittee will meet again to have a conversation about those ones that we want to forward on for public input. We will have public input at that time, and then because this is such a foundational a legacy project for the city of Escondido, we also want to make sure that the city council is informed. So we will also be going to city council with your recommendation. So unlike other projects that we've had where you just simply say, this is the project we want to move forward with, we feel it's important enough for the city council to have input on that. And so that will be going to city council as well. Yeah.
The RFQ, which infers to me qualifications. Is this truly a proposal, though?
So what's going to happen is it is truly an RFQ. This is not the proposal portion. So what will happen is we're looking for artists to present what their qualifications are. And then we are going to whittle that qualification, or we're going to whittle the number of artists we receive down to anywhere from 3 to 5 artists. And then those 3 to 5 artists will be given the opportunity to go through an RFP. And that's when they will be sharing with us what their proposals are. So that's kind of the direction that we are headed. We are basing this very similarly off of what the Escondido Community Foundation did last year with the 2 projects that you saw earlier this evening. We anticipate that this project will probably not get off the ground until fall of 2025. So because of, it's such a long process. But again, this is such a big legacy project for the city of Escondido. We need to make sure that we get it right. And that means that we get everybody's input, from the community to the Public Art Commission to the city council. And everybody has had an opportunity to kind of weigh in, especially considering the size of the project is, $300,000 to $500,000. The Escondido Creek Trail project has been delayed, and part of the reason why the project itself has been delayed is that they are working through some of the coordination with some of the tribes for some of the items that they've placed inside the creek trail. While a contractor and a construction manager have been selected for the project, they don't anticipate this project to get off the ground until probably early 2025. We anticipate having a meeting with the construction manager and the construction team sometime in probably mid-December. And at that point in time, we should have a much better idea of what that timeline is going to look like, how they're going to phase it. Because as you know, with the other Escondido Community Foundation project we have that's specific to the Creek Trail, what we want to do is give that individual an opportunity to start on his project within a reasonable amount of time and not delaying it till the end. So we don't have to delay those things until the end. It's a matter of trying to figure out at what phase can we start putting them in. The other thing is that the Escondido Creek Trail Project Subcommittee will be meeting sometime in January. And the reason why they'll be meeting sometime in January, because there's some decisions that are going to have to be made as a part of this particular project. One of the decisions that are going to have to be made is what we would anticipate the number of mural projects that we are going to do inside the creek channel. Because what we're finding is, in having conversations with our risk team as well as our public works team, is that that might be a little bit more expensive than what we anticipated. Initially, we were thinking about doing 5 projects for $30,000 each. Well, it may have to reverse that, where we do 3 projects for $50,000 each. And so those are the decisions that will need to be made, and so the subcommittee will meet to guide the staff team when we are putting together the call for artists. The next couple of items that you have there is the Escondido, the Community Foundation projects. We've talked about all 3 of those, so I'll skip those for now. The Hummingbirds by Brenda Townsend, the unveiling is scheduled to be Saturday, December 7th at, it says 10 a.m., I apologize, it is 11 a.m. So it is 11 a.m. on December 7th is when we're going to be doing that. And Belas Rosas is also going to be completing by the end of this month in having conversation with the artist. He has chosen not to do any type of unveiling, and so we will not be doing any unveiling other than we'll take a nice photo of it, we'll share it with everybody, as well as do just a very nice brief press release. No reports of any.
Is that the artist's choice if we fund it? It is?
We can do an unveiling, but without the artist,
Would
it's.
that be Charlie and Zane?
Yeah,
I
I
know.
know, right?
I know.
We're gonna have to have a conversation there.
I think so.
Yeah.
You're welcome to have a conversation with the artist. All right. We've covered all the tracking projects, so nothing there. The last item that I have is just your 2025 meeting schedule. As you can see there, those are all the meeting dates, and then the subcommittee meetings will be scheduled as needed. So the only thing that I will note is that Monday, November 10th, and then you have Tuesday, November 11th, which just happens to be Veterans Day. I don't know if that's something for those individuals that would like to take a long weekend or not planning on going to be there for the 10th. So it might be, if that's something you are interested in making an adjustment to that schedule, that'd be something for us to kind of know now if you're wanting to do that.
I think that's why we're here today, right? Same thing.
That's exactly, yeah, because the last one actually fell on a Monday when we were supposed to be meeting, so.
Yeah.
I would think just to be safe.
I think so too.
Yeah. Let's see. I'm looking at when Thanksgiving falls next year. Let's see. 27th. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I'm just looking at the relation to the dates, because then at least it would be on the 17th and not the week of Thanksgiving.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yep. I would.
Motion to do the same thing we did this year. Move that November 10th, 2025 meeting to November 17th, 2025.
I'll second.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Thank you. And that concludes our presentations for today.
Wonderful.
Anybody have anything else that we need to talk about? Nope, all good? What?
I hope you and I are still here. Yeah, are we up for? I think we are. I don't know.
I think it happens in March, though, doesn't it? You'll be here in January.
Well, I'm
Yeah.
thinking of the schedule for next year.
Oh, okay.
The May 2025 meeting will be the first one with any potential reappointments
Right.
or new commissioners.
Right. Okay.
And that's why the subcommittees will need to be relooked at every May, because it's a constant cycle, because you're up for a 2-year term. And as a result, every 2 years, we could potentially have new commissioners on board.
I'm not up next year, am I? It's 26th that I'm up, right? Yeah, okay.
So I'm not sure when we're up because we were delayed. Yeah, that's actually the question. Yeah, it's the term, I'll tell you. Would you tell us?
Tell us.
And I was being nice. No.
How do you really feel?
Carrie, Juan, Carol.
Oh, I am?
You are,
It's 25?
yeah, 331. So the appointments got delayed like so many months, but it doesn't mean like the expiration. Or your term expires like so long. You still have an empty seat. Yeah.
What is the date that we're?
So you should in theory be doing the appointments, like sending stuff out in February. But it's up to the mayor. So depending on his schedule, sometimes he'll move it along. But we contact you. You'll get a notice from our office. We'll let you guys know. Okay. Yeah, we always let the people.
I'll make sure you do that. Thank you. I don't know. How many years have we been on?
I'm going to adjourn this meeting. We're adjourned.